At some point after loss or major change, responsibility returns. Not all at once, and not dramatically. It returns quietly, through expectations, deadlines, routines, and tasks that don't pause just because something inside you has shifted. Work resumes. Roles continue. People rely on you again, sometimes without knowing that anything changed at all. This episode is about that return, about what it's like to carry responsibility when the way you used to carry it no longer fits. Work often assumes a stable center, a sense of identity, motivation, or internal structure that organizes effort and decision-making. When that center has softened or dissolved, responsibility doesn't disappear, but the way it's met changes. You may notice that work feels different now, not necessarily harder, but less personal. Tasks still get done, decisions still happen, but the internal narrative that once drove them may no longer be there in the same way. This can be unsettling. You might wonder whether you've lost something essential, whether your ability to care, contribute, or perform has diminished. But what's changed isn't capability, it's reference. Work used to be carried by identity, by a sense of who you were, what you were proving, or where you were heading. When that reference loosens, responsibility doesn't vanish. It simply moves differently. You may find yourself doing your work more quietly now, less performatively, less driven by urgency or outcome. This doesn't mean disengagement. It means effort is no longer fueled by the same internal pressure. There can be discomfort here, especially if you were once motivated by ambition, recognition, or forward momentum. Without those forces pushing, work can feel oddly neutral. Things get done, but without the emotional charge they once carried. This neutrality can be misinterpreted as apathy, by you or by others. But neutrality isn't indifference. It's responsiveness without self-reference. You're still capable of responsibility. You're just no longer using it to define yourself. There may also be moments where responsibility feels heavier than it used to. Not because the work itself has changed, but because energy is being allocated differently now. When identity is no longer organizing effort, tasks may require more conscious attention. This doesn't mean you're less competent. It means work is no longer being carried automatically by a story about who you are. You may notice that you approach decisions more slowly, that you pause more often, that you're less reactive. This can feel inefficient in environments that value speed and certainty. But it's not dysfunction. It's recalibration. Responsibility after change often becomes simpler, not an outcome, but an intention. You do what needs to be done because it needs to be done, not because it supports a narrative. This can feel oddly grounding, or oddly empty, sometimes both. There may also be a tension between internal quiet and external demand. Work often requires engagement, communication, and initiative. When internal noise has softened, that engagement may feel less fueled by urgency and more by necessity. You're allowed to meet responsibility without enthusiasm. You're allowed to fulfill obligations without passion. You're allowed to work without meaning-making. Responsibility doesn't require inspiration. It requires presence. You may notice that your relationship to success and failure has shifted. Outcomes matter, but they don't land the same way. Praise may feel distant. Criticism may feel less personal. This isn't detachment. It's perspective without a center. Work becomes something you participate in, not something you are. This can be freeing, but it can also feel unfamiliar, especially if your sense of self was once closely tied to competence, achievement, or productivity. This episode doesn't ask you to redefine your relationship to work. It simply acknowledges that work now exists in a different internal context. You may still care about doing things well. You may still take responsibility seriously, but you may no longer need work to tell you who you are. That shift doesn't make you unreliable. It makes you less burdened. There may be days when responsibility feels manageable and days when it feels heavier than expected. That fluctuation doesn't mean you're unstable. It means your system is still settling into a new way of carrying effort. You're allowed to adjust how much you take on. You're allowed to notice where responsibility feels excessive. You're allowed to meet expectations without internalizing them. Responsibility doesn't have to come from pressure. It can come from clarity. This season isn't about abandoning work or disengaging from life. It's about recognizing that responsibility can be carried without a central identity organizing it. You're allowed to work quietly. You're allowed to show up without proving anything. You're allowed to participate without self-definition. If you're listening to this while navigating work that feels different than it used to, you're not failing. You're adapting to a new internal landscape where responsibility is no longer anchored to who you think you need to be. If these reflections help that experience feel more understandable, you're welcome to stay. Liking the video helps it reach others who may be quietly adjusting their relationship to work. And if you want to keep a steady space like this as the season continues, you can subscribe, not for answers, but for continuity. If someone you care about is struggling with responsibility after change, you're welcome to share this with them, only if it feels right. Work continues. Responsibility remains. And you meet it now without the old center holding everything together.